Daluyong hit-and-run case 2 months ago, now facing frustrated homicide charges, a downgrade from frustrated murder. And the list is out. Who will suit up to face Team Lebanon in the FIBA World Cup qualifiers? The Masagana program of the late former President Ferdinand E. Marcos in the 1970s, now revived by his son, President Bongbong Marcos, as Masagana 150 and 200, will begin less than 2 months from now. But at a time when prices of goods are rising and as authorities look into supposed shortage of various commodities, a militant farmers group says it wants cash assistance instead. Our senior correspondent Lois Calderon has more.
30,000 pesos per hectare of farmland. That's the cost of production rice farmers have to shell out to yield up to 200 bags or sacks of rice per hectare. Farmers now want the Marcos government to shoulder half of that production cost, or 15,000 pesos, to be given as cash dole out or unconditional cash transfer, not as a loan. Under the resurrected Masagana program espoused by his father in the 1970s, President Bongbong Marcos, as Agriculture Secretary, wants farmers to produce those 200 bags of rice. But farmers say the Masagana 150 and Masagana 200 would only sink them deeper into debt.
Sa Masagana 150, Masagana 200, pauutangin may magsasaka. Nagtanim kami ng ayarite, tinamaan ng tungkol virus. Abay, hindi masaganang ani, masaganang utang ang inani namin, no, ng mga magsasaka.
Former Agrarian Reform Secretary and now Chairman Emeritus of the Kilusang Magbubukid ng Pilipinas, Rafael Mariano, says the 15,000 peso ayuda can be sourced from unspent funds from rice tariffs amounting to 8.9 billion pesos. The Budget Department in early August released over 8 billion pesos as funds for a 5,000 peso subsidy covering 1.5 million rice farmers. When asked if it can allot more, the agency says it will try to look for other sources.
We are in a very tight fiscal position. So yung sabihin, medyo kaunti na lang yung ating legroom kung ito po ay maaprubahan at mai-rekomenda po sa Department of Budget and Management. Siyempre po, hanapan naman po natin ang pondo yan as long as meron po tayong excess revenue.
Farmers and fishermen huddled in this tiny room somewhere in Quezon City, lamenting rising prices and input costs like fertilizers only make them poorer. It's not just the one-time cash transfer they seek. Their laundry list is long and requires congressional amendments on laws. But they did not spare the Bureau of Customs and Sugar regulators.
Umiiral yung hoarding at cartel ng sugar industry na para sa amin, no, hindi ito mangyayari kung wala ding mga kolaborasyon within o sa loob mismo ng ahensya ng gobyerno, SRA.
The farmers' vows magnify the paradox that those who feed the nation are the ones who often end up hungry. Lois Calderon, CNN Philippines.
The Trade and Industry Department confirms it has approved the price hike in some salt products based on DTI's price bulletin. Rock and iodized salt prices are up by as much as 3 pesos and 85 centavos per kilo. The agency explains this is just the first time manufacturers requested price hikes after 4 to 6 years. It also says there is still enough supply of salt in the country.
Ang pagtaas ng presyo ng mga ilan na locally manufactured ay dahilan lang po sa kailangan na talaga nilang magtaas over the years. Ngayon lang po ulit sila nagtataas. Hindi po dahil sa shortage natin ng asin.
On Monday, Agriculture Undersecretary Domingo Panganiban confirms the country is facing issues with the production of salt. Panganiban said that because of this, the government had to import salt. A milling company in Bukidnon denies hoarding sugar after authorities swooped down on its warehouses. On Tuesday, customs, military, and police officials stormed the Crystal Sugar Milling's facilities in Maramag Town based on intelligence reports that the company was stockpiling sugar. Authorities found over 466,000 sacks of sugar, 264,000 of which were said to have already been sold to traders but have yet to be pulled out from the warehouse. When authorities asked to prove that it was an authorized stock, company officials were not able to present documents at the time. But Crystal Sugar Milling's Vice President Javier Sagarbarria insists the allegations against them are unfounded and unjustified. He says real hoarders are the traders who buy the sugar and manipulate the pricing. Sagarbarria explains of their total sugar production, they only get 34%. It is up to farmers and planters, to which traders sell the remaining 66%. In other news, the blame game begins as Center's grill officials involved in the purchase of alleged overpriced and outdated laptops for public school teachers. AC Nichols has the highlights of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's hearing.
Senators compare it to a basketball game, as the Department of Education and Procurement Service of the Budget Department, or PSDBM, were blaming one another.
Welcome to the basketball game that we do not see, that we do not get to see. Yan ang nangyayari. We only get to see it pagka may sumabog na.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee is looking into a $2.4 billion contract for the purchase of laptops for public school teachers. The DepEd coursed the procurement deal through the PSDBM. State auditors, however, flagged the transaction as the laptops cost over 58,000 pesos, way higher than the initial estimated approved price of around 35,000 pesos. The DepEd said it was PSDBM that set the final price based on its market analysis.
I trusted that the TWG made their due diligence in terms of conducting a price analysis. And nakita ko naman sa mga dokumento based on dito na ganito yung mataas na yung presyo.
Due to the price difference, the total number of units purchased went down from almost 70,000 to less than 40,000 pieces. Auditors also noted that the laptops had old processors, which do not match the required technical specifications. Senators said the DepEd should have asked for a better deal.
Ito ay Mac-Air. Ito yung presyo ng pinabili mo na entry level para sa mga teachers. So is it incompetence o kakuntsaba ka ng mga taga-DBMPS?
Senate Blue Ribbon Committee Chairman Francis Tolentino also pointed out errors in the Memorandum of Agreement between DepEd and PSDBM. The Food and Drug Administration was mentioned at one point, which he says reflects negligence.
Siguro dito po nag-uugat yung problema natin. Yung legal department natin ay medyo mahina.
Former PSDBM Executive Director Lloyd Christopher Lau explained the price went up due to the high demand for gadgets amid the health crisis.
Lumiit yung work in the office, tumaas yung work from home. So everybody was buying laptop, pati yung schools, and everybody was going online. So the demand for laptop increased. That's the reason why tumaas yung prices.
Senators believe there are lapses from the get-go when the PSDBM conducted its market analysis. It would appear one individual from PSDBM's planning division was responsible for selecting possible suppliers for the deal. Engineer Marwan Amil is saying he sent requests for quotes to 6 possible suppliers. However, the senators noted that most of these suppliers could not supply laptops with the required specs.
Sa dami ng suppliers sa Pilipinas, no one can supply 1.9 gigahertz.
Yung 6 lang po yung sinendan ko po.
Some senators believe there is corruption involved here. There's one question senators asked: is the PSDBM worth saving, or should it be abolished amid these questionable deals? AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
While the Education Department says the school opening went smoothly, a teachers group disagrees, saying there is still no clear plan for a safe return to in-person classes. ACT Teachers Party List asks DepEd for a, quote, truthful assessment of the educational system to obtain enough funding and create what ACT Party List calls an evidence-based plan for classes during the pandemic. The party list says over half of teachers surveyed in Metro Manila worry about their safety in schools because of COVID. The group also says resources were lacking, resulting in packed classrooms and overworked personnel. DepEd previously said it planned to hire more teachers. At least 3 people are reported dead and 4 others injured because of severe tropical storm Florita. The National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC, says 2 of the casualties are confirmed. The victims, both male, were hit by fallen trees, or trees fell on victims in Cagayan and Kalinga. The unconfirmed death reportedly happened in Camarines Sur. Nearly 12,000 families have been affected by Florida. Damage to agriculture is estimated at more than 3 million pesos based on data from the Agriculture Department. Most of the destroyed crops are from the Ilocos region. We head on over to one of the hardest hit regions, Cagayan Valley. Officials still assessing the damage from Florida, but so far it has affected over 2,300 farmers in the capital city of Tuguegarao. Stanley Gaheta has the details.
Immediately after the storm, these vegetable vendors near Pinakanawan and Cagayan River are back selling.
Talagang pinipilit lang po namin, yun lang po ang pagkabuhayan po namin. Kaya pinipili na lang po namin dito. Kahit medyo mahirap.
Hanggang sa digdib yung baha dito sa loob. Putik-putik to, ang daming putik yan. Lahat ng po, nasa daan, putik yan. Galing dito, na tibag yung nasa taas. Pumalik kami para mag-display na kami at saka maglinis.
Tuguegarao City is now business as usual days after severe tropical storm Florita hit Cagayan Province. However, the agriculture sector is still reeling from the storm as it damaged 38.1 hectares of rice plantation, affecting 40 farmers. More than 2,790 hectares of cornfields were also damaged, affecting 2,300 farmers. Rice and corn are the primary agricultural products of the province.
Yung mga nadapa na crops natin, may chance na pong makarecover. So may 50% chance naman ng recovery. A few minutes,
The mayor is not yet ready to declare a state of calamity as her office is still waiting for the post-disaster assessments from other agencies. The local government plans to use funds allotted for the National State of Health Emergency in case there is an immediate need to provide aid to affected farmers.
So far as the whole city is concerned, maganda naman po yung kalagayan natin lahat. Ngayon dito,
manageable pa. Manageable kasi we will be honest with that.
All evacuees have returned home, but residents from 20 affected barangays are asking for relief goods from the city's Social Welfare and Development Office.
We still to do validation to other barangays to see if they are really na flood po.
There are no severely damaged infrastructures and submerged bridges have already been cleared.
So, ikukumpara natin yung pag-check na Typhoon Florita, mas maganda sa yung situation ng lampak ng Cagayan ngayon. Hindi ko masyadong naminsala po yung Florita sa kanyang pagdaan.
Local officials also said they were 95% prepared this time as they laid down all plans before Florita hit the region. Stanley Gahete, CNN Philippines.
Up ahead, the Senate committee reopens discussions for charter change, and the SUV driver in the Mandaluyong hit-and-run case gets indicted for frustrated homicide. Newsnight will be right back.
Ito ang RPN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back to CNN Philippines. The Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments takes its first steps towards charter change, or CHACHA. Amor Santos has the highlights of the panel's first hearing, led by the committee's chairman, Robin Padilla.
Charter change talks started early in the Senate, exactly a month into the 19th Congress. Previously, the chamber was called to amending the Constitution. But the new chairman of the Senate Committee on Constitutional Amendments, Senator Robin Padilla, is warming up.
May isang katotohanang nananaig, mananaig. Ito ang katotohanang tumutugon ang mga Pilipino sa mga pagkakataong tinatawag tayo upang paigtingin, pagbutihin o lalo pang isaayos ang ating saligang batas kung kinakailangan.
Padilla filed a resolution to study the possible revision, while Senator Win Gatchalian limited his proposal to economic provisions. Amid criticisms about Padilla's qualifications as the first non-lawyer to head the committee, Attorney Christian Monsod, one of the framers of the 1987 Constitution, says the neophyte handled Thursday's debates well. On economic chacha, Monsod believes recently passed laws have already opened the country to foreign investment. He also warns against a sweeping revision of the charter, which for him, the previous administration tried to do.
We have largely failed in human development, not because of the Constitution, but because we have not fully implemented it, especially its provisions on social justice and human rights and local autonomy. The Constitution is not the problem, it is part of the solution. The Puno Committee is a new Constitution, it's not a revision of the Constitution.
For Monsod, only a few changes are needed, such as allowing tandem voting for president and vice president. While for some advocates, the president should be entitled to a 4-year term with re-election instead of a single term of 6 years.
Mas maganda ngayon na maipasa na po natin ito sa simula pa lamang ng Marcos administration para hindi tayo magawa ng issue na ito ay ginagawa lang natin para pahabain ang termino ng Pangulong Bongbong.
But Monsod asks, how can a Congress run by political dynasties be trusted with its job?
It's a long-distance run of commitment and endurance. But until we get a new generation of leaders who come from the poor, there will be no real change in this country.
Pagka ganun po ang susundan natin ay abutin po tayo ng second coming ni Jesus Christ. Hindi po mananalo ang mahirap. Pero dito po, sa komprehensibong pagbabago, binibigyan po natin ng kapangyarihan na magbuo ang mga mahihirap ng partido, tulungan ng Estado.
Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
The Jail Management Bureau is looking into a protest staged by more than 100 inmates at an Iloilo jail over food. The inmates climbed the roof of the building Wednesday, with some of them holding placards calling for the removal of the warden. The jail's district inspector, Norberto Michano, relieved from his post to give way to the probe.
Based po dun sa report na natanggap po namin, maayos po ang pagpapakain sa ating mga PDL. Nakausap po natin yung mismong warden and sinabi niya, nagpaliwanag siya na kung meron mang problema sa pagkain ng mga PDL, hindi ho sana dati pa na ilapit sa kanya, pero ni isa wala man hong lumapit o nagsabi na meron ho silang problema. Pero dahil ho meron silang ni-raise na concern, mahalaga po sa amin na ma-validate ito, makausap mismo sila para ho kung may problema nga ay maiayos po natin.
The Jail Bureau also looking at the possibility that the inmates protested because they are unhappy about being transferred to another building.
Meron ho tayong old building dyan at saka yung new building. Sa new building ho sila nagkandak ho ng noise barrage. Ito hong mga dating leader doon, inilipat na ho natin sila at sila nga ho yung nag-istiga ng gulo kasi ayaw po nila yung bagong facility na kanilang paglalagakan dahil mas mahigpit na ho doon at gusto ho nilang bumalik sa dati.
The driver of a speeding sport utility vehicle faces charges after hitting and killing a security guard in Cavite. This comes just as the Mandaluyong Prosecutor's Office indicted for frustrated homicide another SUV driver who ran over another security guard 2 months ago. Carrie Quito reports.
Prosecutors have indicted Jose Antonio San Vicente for frustrated homicide, a downgrade from the frustrated murder charges filed by the Mandaluyong City Police. The resolution filed before a regional trial court says The June 5 hit-and-run incident does not qualify for frustrated murder. It notes the absence of, quote, an initial intention to commit a crime. Prosecutors also dismissed the complaint for abandonment of one's own victim, citing lack of probable cause. San Vicente's camp refuses to comment, but it earlier stood by its statement. San Vicente had no intention to run over the victim and security guard Christian Floralde. Floralde's lawyer, Federico Biolena, tells CNN Philippines they might file a motion for reconsideration. The LTO is leaving it to the court to decide on San Vicente's case. Earlier, the agency revoked his driver's license and permanently banned him from driving a vehicle. In Cavite, another hit-and-run involving a security guard and traffic enforcer. 54-year-old Rodolfo Mejos was manning traffic along Barangay Salawag in Dasmariñas when a speeding SUV hit him Monday afternoon. Mejos was rushed to the hospital but was declared dead on arrival. Dasmariñas Police Chief Juan Oruga says the victim's family agreed to settle, but the driver is facing charges for violating the anti-drunk and drug driving law. Authorities hope the incident will serve as a lesson to drivers. Caricator, CNN Philippines.
Mandaluyong police says it has nothing against the downgrading the case against San Vicente. The Land Transportation Office in talks with officials of 5 Metro Manila local governments for possible changes to the no-contact apprehension policy. At the hearing of the House Transportation Committee, LTO Chief Teofilo Guadis said they are urging LGUs to lower penalties collected from erring drivers or at least make it at par with those imposed by the Metropolitan Manila Development Authority. Transport Assistant Secretary Guadis clarifies the LTO merely tags motorists apprehended through the NCAP and that it is up to local governments to decide on how to implement the policy.
For the public utility vehicles, as of this time, we are trying to craft a module wherein the penalty should be given to the driver, not to the operator of the motor vehicle. It should be much lower than the fees being charged by the LGUs. As of this time, our inclination is that even if it has already been tagged, but the summons has not been served yet on the motor vehicle owner, we will allow registration, we will allow renewal of the license. We will only tag after the due process has been given.
The LTO also says it can resolve the backlog on motor vehicle license plates by the first quarter of next year, 2023, using 8 machines to manufacture them. Guadis adds the LTO is up to date in issuing license plates for vehicles bought this year. Owners can get them in 5 to 7 days if the dealers submit documents promptly. The Philippines has the most stressed workers in Southeast Asia. That's based on global analytic firm Gallup survey taken in 2021. Mental health organization Mind Nation lists COVID-19 fears and financial pressure as two of the biggest factors for work stress. But Chief Wellbeing Officer Asa Fusingan says Filipino culture also plays a role.
There's the limit in terms of our resiliency levels. So might as well in terms of our culture here in the Philippines, there's still that high stigma surrounding people who express their mental health concern. And for that matter, the stressor not being addressed in terms of personal levels, which could impact the way they work.
Fusingan adds it's crucial for workers to have a management that listens to them and promotes a safe space so they can seek help. When we return, SMB knots the PBA Philippine Cup Finals at 1-1, while Gilas is raring to prove itself against Lebanon in the FIBA World Cup Asian qualifiers. And the fuel prices roll back to the 1980s with Netflix's newest stunt, the Seoul Vibe gas station. You're watching CNN Philippines.
Ito ang RBN, Radio Philippines Network, DXKT 1071 sa inyong mga radyo, ang Radyo Ronda sa Davao.
Welcome back. Sports news now. The San Miguel Beermen evens the PBA Philippine Cup Finals with a game-2 win against the TNT Tropang Giga. TNT almost caught up with a 6-0 run, but San Miguel held on to cap off the victory at 109-100 at the Araneta Coliseum in Quezon City. Both teams will look to gain the upper hand in Game 3 happening Friday at the Mall of Asia Arena in Pasay. A breakthrough victory for the country in the AVC Cup for women. The Philippines, represented by the Creamline Cool Smashers, defeated Iran in 4 sets Wednesday at the Phil Sports Arena in Pasig City. The national women's volleyball team seeks to boost its chances of entering the quarterfinals when it faces South Korea at 7 tonight. And the Samahang Basketball ng Pilipinas celebrated the 1-year-to-go milestone leading up to the 2023 FIBA World Cup to be hosted by the country. SBP President Al Pandillo says the federation is determined to form the best team possible for the competition. Several local ambassadors were also introduced, including members of the fabled Gilas Pilipinas squad that brought Philippine basketball back to the World Cup in 2014, and another country's pride, 2018 Miss Universe, Catriona Gray.
To also encourage our countrymen to express their support and love for our athletes as they go out there and represent and really carry high the Philippine flag in the arena of sports. It gives me so much pride and joy.
Ibang feeling kasi before we were playing and now we're here to support and to be there for our team next year.
Malaking bagay ito sa mga Pilipino, mga kabataan, mga Pilipino dito sa atin na makikita natin yung mga inaangahan natin, mga players na magagaling sa buong mundo.
The list is out. Here's a look at the Gilas Pilipinas 12-man roster for the match versus Lebanon tomorrow, Friday at 2 a.m. Philippine time for the FIBA Basketball World Cup Asian qualifiers. Roosevelt Adams, the top pick in the 2019 PBA draft, missed the cut but was part of the initial 13-player lineup. In entertainment, actress Angelica Panganiban shows off her baby bump and motherhood glow in her stunning maternity shoot. The soon-to-be mom first announced her pregnancy in March. On Instagram, she flaunted her pregnancy body with a caption, "Happiness is on the way." Angelica and her partner, Greg Homan, said they're very excited to welcome their first child. Great news for motorists. Seoul Vibe gas station drives us back to 1988 with very low gas prices for a limited time only. For one day, online streaming platform Netflix is opening a gas station on EDSA, Quezon Avenue, that will sell gas at 7 pesos a liter. That's happening tomorrow. Vehicles need to pre-book their visit, and the promo is capped at 40 liters per vehicle. Online registration has begun. This is a promotional stunt for the Korean movie Seoul Vibe. It's set in the year 1988 when gas prices were still cheap.
7 pesos per liter. Yan ang presyo ng gasolina sa Netflix Seoul Vibe gas station. At di lang presyo ng gasolina ang napunta sa 1988, pati ang buong gas station at crew, balik 1988 rin. Isang araw lang ibebenta ng Netflix Seoul Vibe gas station ng gas sa presyo noong 1988. At hanggang 40 liters ang pwedeng ikarga ng bawat kotse. Paano magpagas? Mag-book lamang ng slot sa soulvibe1988.ph. Pre-registration is required. Kung wala kang reservation, hindi ka pwede magpagas. Limitado lang ang slots kaya mag-book na sa soulvibe1988.ph. Magbubukas ang website sa August 25 ng alas 6 ng gabi.
Even her hair is so 1988. Seoul Vibe premieres tomorrow, August 26th. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
This program is brought to you.
Ito ang RBN